Together with Rabbi Russ, I had the zchus this past Shabbos. Aaron, I had the great zchus this past Shabbos to be together with a nice number of the alumni of the yeshiva. It was a chevra, about 50 guys, and we were together, 50 mishpachas. Is that the right number? I don't know, who counts? But together with a whole bunch of mishpachas, of guys who learned in the yeshiva, we were together for Shabbos Kodesh. It was otherworldly, Baruch Hashem. And one of the families I got to be with the Shabbos is Zevi Khan. Zevi Khan learned in this yeshiva, I think 16 years ago. And Baruch Hashem, he's Ben Torah raising a beautiful family. To meet his children, he has a daughter, just to meet his children, a 9-year-old daughter, an 8-year-old son, to meet his children, very, very special kids. And his son asked me a shayla. I was so moved. It was such a sweet shayla. This past week's Parashas Yisrael, and as the Aseres HaDibros, and one of the Aseres HaDibros is not to say God's name in vain. Now he asked me that a guy makes a bracha, somebody makes a bracha, shakol niyeh b'dvaroi, makes a bracha on a chocolate bar, a milchig chocolate bar. He says shakol niyeh b'dvaroi, and then before he bites, he remembers he's flashing. And the youngster Shui asked me, this beautiful shayla, he asked, should I bite into the chocolate bar and say I made a bracha? I don't want it to be a bracha of atola, so I should bite into the chocolate bar. What do I say, since we don't eat meat and milk, we don't eat milk after meat, even though it's 2 hours later, let's say. So maybe it's only a minhag, maybe. You're not allowed it together, it's a daraisa. He wanted to know, should I better have the bracha of atola and not eat the chocolate bar, or should I bite into the chocolate bar?
How old is this kid?
At 8 years old. So I was very, very moved by the shayla. We're Zeich, and we have Shimmy, Schiller, and Rabbi Medrash.
What was the question?
He had been flashing, and then he makes a bracha on a chocolate bar a couple of hours later, forgetting he was flashing, and he didn't take a bite yet.
What's how much afterwards?
Right away, Baruch Atah Hashem.
How much after you eat?
2 hours.
Right there. There's a...
So he wanted to know, should he bite
It
the...
takes like 1 hour.
Yeah. So he wanted to know, should he bite the chocolate bar, Mordcha, and not have a bracha of atola, or should it be makbid his family minhag? You can't eat milk after. That's what he asked. A beautiful shayla. But his bracha was on this. His bracha was on this. He was having in mind this chocolate bar. That was his shayla. So it was such an impressive shayla. I came, Shimmy Schiller, Rezaich and Rabbi Medrash to have a Talmud Chacham Nifla. I'm equally impressed with Shimmy's midas to the Talmud Chacham. The Talmud Chacham, the midas that specifically the care for a brother is La Yu'min Ki Yisupr. It's a story of Gedalim, Ein Kan Makam Laharich. Mamish, it's a big story going on. The care for a sibling. The love, the Abba, the Achva. In the media, tells big stories if people are caring for other people. The further away from home, the bigger the media story. In our world of truth, the closer to home, the bigger the story. Guys, a brother is good to Goimel Nafsha Yish Chesed. The Iker of Chesed is Mishpachtei, and Shimmy's a Nifla, the kindness, the Chesed, Nifla. So I asked Reb Shimmy about Chesed and the Torah Dika Mensch. I asked him to share with the Chevra this case and other similar cases relevant to the parsha. So it's this Issa Darais of saying Hashem's name in vain. So I asked Shimmy to darshan for the Chevra a little. If you can clearly, feel free, ask questions, make sure you get it. This won't be in a minute. His podcast is very fast. I can't always keep cheshbon. This will be a slowed down version. Take it away, Shims.
Okay, I'm gonna put together a few things so everyone could chime in, whatever. And so what happened, I can tell you what some like Rabbanim say the exact question at the end. So also Ashkacha, because it's also this parasha. The second part, it says thrice in the Torah, and that's like connected to this this cooking meat and milk. So at first glance, obviously, or whatever, if you have any, whatever. At first glance, it seems like it's one of those. I always say there's 3 words that came out during COVID: triage, which is like this word that means the better of 2 evils. Like it was very sad with the ventilators of that. Silver lining, quarantine. Or there's like more words, whatever. So it's at first glance, it seems like a triage question, which is like which is like the better of two evils, which is pretty much like, what do? We made a bracha on something, so either let like the bracha go into the abyss, or you take a bite of the meat, but then you're getting into eating meat after milk. So, and some of the stuff I just made on my own, so I'm saying you could have. And then Avi Bertram, Avi brought up an interesting point, so he could handle that a little bit. So we think the question is, could you alleviate the whole bracha and just make it like you didn't do anything wrong? So Avi quoted a thing like we know from when we were kids. You say Baruch Shem Kol Machzal right after you do a bracha, right after you say a bracha in vain. So the question is, what does that do exactly? So there's Yerushalmi like that. It says Yerushalmi brachas that says that if someone makes a bracha, whatever, someone does a bracha in vain, they say it and then it's some sort of tikkun. So machlek is how to understand it. Some people say like, what did you guys think when you were kids? Like it did, like Baruch Shem after you make a bracha. Like what does that do?
Made you feel better.
Right. So I think somehow Lamafreya takes it away, and if you want to go like that, you can make it as if you never did it. So right, then maybe you would say Baruch Shem. It sounds like that's not what the Paisan say to do, and then some say it does a tikkun, and it's sort of like since you there was some sort of disgrace to Hashem's name, so you could rectify it a little bit, but you still tshuva after. So assuming that we're not going with that you could make it as if you go away, so you do have to. Another thing is what someone brought up. Who said the thing about taking another thing in front of you?
Mayor.
So right, so I think as the Shulchan quotes, I think to Yerushalmi that if you make a bracha like an apple or whatever, and then it like falls, let's say in the mud. So the famous thing they say is like then you can't salvage it. But they discuss what happens if you had something with the same bracha in front of you. I think the assumption is that you just made a bracha on water, you had nothing else in front of you. But usually the rule is if you make a bracha on Gatorade and there's also a soda can in front of you, you're going to drink that. But so it could be, I think it might be machlekes somehow that maybe again you could salvage if there was another, besides the milk, there was another thing in front of you which you were gonna be pottering anyway from that bracha. So then maybe so some of these are machlekes, so maybe that was another tzad. And yish machacham yosef leka, you could take it and be ma'ayin. Another idea you could have got into is maybe there's something called I think there's a machlekes about this. There's something called if you do a derabanan, then it could be when you do an Isser Min HaTorah, like let's say someone eats a cheeseburger, whatever, obviously or like wearing shatnez, that's inherently an Isser. But they say, let's say Muksa on Shabbos, which only Darabanan, there's an idea, and there's different proofs for it. I think that as long as you didn't know, the Isser when it comes to Darabanan is to go against the rabbis, like betray the rabbis. But it's not like picking up Muksa is not like inherently Isser. It's just a thing they say if you do by mistake, some hold you don't need to do tshuva, it's not considered like a sin. If you by mistake, let's say like whatever, carry out of the Erev or whatever, like I'm assuming it's not. Or like whatever, I'm trying to think of good Darabana, but like or let's say by mistake forgot to light the Chanukah nears. So you could get into so the only thing is why why don't we just say that, just leave the bracha, because so really that will get into like a few like a minute or two, what's the nature of the Isser. But if one were to say the Isser of making a bracha when you're not sure by mistake making a bracha is only Darabanan, then you could say the only thing, I think the reason they don't make it, because really the Isser of saying Hashem's name in vain is really Daraisa, just the way you do that, it's like a Darabanan fashion, so it could be that wouldn't be a thing. And then so it's just a quickly, and this will pretty much line up for all the questions, because I was like, or Gil was saying, there's a lot of different ways it could come up. What happens if you make a bracha on Pesach, on Chametz? What happens if you make a bracha on the 9 days on meat? What happens if you make coming on a fast day? What happens? So before davening, before Shacharis, for us not Hasidim, but right. So pretty much. So this will pretty much is this way to end it off. Is pretty much how do you look at the Isra of Bracha Vatala, and then verses. Let's say for this will be meat and milk, and you could get onto yourself. So the question is, what's the source to say Hashem's name in vain? Because I think that the Gemara they quotes from Tamura. But the famous thing that we know from Asar Sedibris, they say like the Gemara doesn't quote that all. The thing the Gemara quotes is like as Shalom Kachatira, which is like a pasuk you have to fear God, which you learn from there not to say Hashem's name Levatala. But like the Isser from Asar Sedibris, like Sisa, I think they say in the Gemara it was only quoted for like a false shvua with Hashem's name, which is like a different. So the Shilta is set, which is like one of the Ga'anim, right after the Gemara, he quotes the pasuk of Leisisa for Asar Sedibris, and some Rishonim quote it that's Isser to say Hashem's name in vain. So either way, what makes such an argument regarding this? Let's assume it's still Daraisa, but just maybe Leisa say whatever. But so it's interesting because a lot of times that's assuming you're saying it in vain. Over here we're discussing where someone makes a bracha and he wasn't trying to do the wrong thing. So stam, we usually assume that when you say like psukim into Tehillim, you're allowed to say Hashem's name, or if you want to just say even Svardim, even like we'll greet people with Hashem's name, think like Ashkenaz and Machmer. Really, that's not called in vain. Anytime you're not doing it just like machavek with Hashem's name, just try to so it's very interesting. All of a sudden by brachas we say we get all serious. Like if you're not to make extra bracha, we don't say not to say Tehillim Kuf Beis, whenever, right? Right, right.
It's not really in vain.
Right. So the question is why are brachas different? Now it's a very interesting question. Like we get all serious about brachas, we're not sure. So you say if you said it, we you just say a bracha and right. Right. How about say there are some opinions that hold if you're not sure if you made like let's say Kiddush Levana and the time's passing, then you could like say a bracha from the Gemara and have like a Tanai that if it's not, then I'm learning. So it's interesting, whatever. So the question is what's the difference? So the Pnei Yeshua says that the Rabbanan enacted a bracha like for this specific reason somehow, and they only wanted to save it for like these times or whatever. So somehow it's considered like more like intense to like do it. Like my father always asked, like, why can't we just do mezumin if we're not sure? Everyone always gets, do we have the zumin? Do we not? So I think my brother showed me there's a Gemara, like it's lav arach ara if you don't have like the right amount of people. So it could be there's certain things that even though they seem like you're just saying Hashem's name, but they're specifically made for certain scenarios, and therefore they have different rules. So the question is, what about making a bracha levatala, where let's assume you're not just going to Hashem and you're just saying a bracha for fun, but let's say you already made a bracha on you already made a bracha on chocolate and you make another one. So the Gemara says that someone makes a bracha shein et tzricha. This is like the famous Gemara everyone quotes. Is an isser of loisisa. That's what they do quote that Sarah's service. They quote it by this Gemara. So it's a big machlokes rishayim. Some hold that when the Gemara says loisisa, it means like what it says, right? When I usually Gemara quotes a pasuk, so it's a real isser deraisa to make a bracha shein et tzricha. And then some hold no, it's derabana, just an asmachta. So assuming we got based on the rice derabana, then we could try to line up versus we're going against bas v'chalav. And some split here is they say it depends what type of bracha shein tzricha. Like if you go outside and make a new bracha, so you force yourself to make another bracha, that could be like a lesser level. But maybe even if you hold the rice, that'll be derabana. But if you make a bracha, let's say on purpose, let's say you didn't switch places, you just made 2 shahakos in a row, that would be like some hold out, that would be different. So now going over to assuming it's either daraisa or abana, now what happens? What's the isser of eating milk after meat? So the Gemara Chulin says that like a certain rabbi said you can't have milk after meat, and one person said I just didn't have in that meal. I would wait till like the next meal, but my father would wait the whole entire day. So that's where Rabbi Machlokes Rishonim comes up, is what does that mean to wait to the next meal? So some people say that you're allowed to even have in that meal if you just wash out your mouth, whatever, you don't even have to do anything as long as you wash out your mouth and your hands, so the milk and meat's not together. So you could technically have it there. And some say it's not that same meal, but as long as you make a bracha achrona right after. So and then there's then there's like the opinion of like 6 hours. So the question is, so that would get some. There's different opinions. How it like some say the first hour, like, so when they discuss this exact question, a lot of places can say the first hour is much more severe, and therefore you would just let the bracha go, and then you would just say Baruch Shem or whatever. So the question is, what's the understanding? So either you could say that it depends on your understanding Baruch Shem et tzricha. Well, let's say in the case in the first hour they say don't actually eat it. So you could understand that. What's the problem? That we're assuming that I think the first hour is a derabanan. So if you eat the food, you're going to get an isser derabanan. The question is, if you leave the bracha go, then you're going to get. So either you could go with the assumption it's derabanan, so it's better to do sheva al tasa derabanan and not eat the food derabanan, or maybe you can even say a chiddush. Sometimes maybe you can even say sheva al tasa deraisa is better because there's a concept called if you don't take action, it's better than to take action. So it could be if you sit and do nothing, it's maybe somehow you could say it's better to let a deraisa go than to, right? So people brought up yesterday, but you didn't do it on purpose. I think that's the understanding. The understanding is when you do without realizing, that's considered like that's the way you look at it. That's considered. So yeah, and then some hold even more hours. Like I think I said until 4 hours. But then a lot of people hold once you get into the past, let's say an hour. Let's assume that there's a Chasam Sofer that says after the first hour, even if you're sick, but there's something called halacha, someone who's sick like deathly. Then there's Kalish, which is not dangerous, and there's even like just a little. So Chasam Sofer says after an hour, then the Durabana goes, and it's more like a minhag or whatever. And then even someone who's just a little sick, they could have milk after that. So that I think that's understanding of that after the hour. And then, so how do you look at it after the first hour? So then it would be letting a bracha go, which is, I think, according to everyone, at least the Rabbi Midaraisa, versus a minhag. So they say, I think in that case, it's better to take action and eat the food, even though you're going to go against the Rabbanan. So I guess, and I just saw one very interesting thing. One, I think it was Tzina Abba Shaul wanted to say that no, every time you eat the food, that's actually a deraisa, because you took on a neder not to do it 3 times. Gemara says if you take on like a nice act 3 times, and a lot of people say there's in the Hilchos Nedarim there's a rule that if you're not, so he was saying that you have to be mater in the neder or whatever. And a lot of places say that I think it's like a dogma of Avava that says that no, if you're not trying to break your neder, it's just like a one-time thing or whatever, and you're not trying to undo it, and it's for like a mitzvah or whatever in order to save it, then you wouldn't So then, according to that, it wouldn't. Right. And then they also discuss also if you want to line up just one more time from before, you could say no when you're getting into the eating the food, you're getting into more wrong things because you're eating meat after milk, but you're also getting into like you have to know how exactly we possible these things, but washing your hands and washing your mouth and stuff like that. So I think that some places actually say that if in the situation you would eat, you have to quickly wash your mouth in between the bracha, so at least you don't get that thing also. And I could right, so this like based whatever, and then I could just I think so right. Pretty much if you want this exact question in like Paiskim, a lot of places can say that you after during the hour, a lot of places can say you actually don't eat, you let it go, you say Baruch Shem, and that implies that it doesn't actually fully fix it up. And then after that, you would take a bite, and then there are
First hour, you're saying.
Yeah, and then there are places like everything. There's like everything Jews are machlekes. But I always say it's easy to say it, but you got to understand every opinion. So but yeah, there are. I think there's actually opinion they quote that actually even till the 6th hour they would hold. I think it's there because there are Rishonim that hold up when the Gemara says Suzu, it really means 6 hours. So right.
So after the first hour, you should take a bite of the chocolate.
What would you do? 2 hours. What would you do if this happened to you?
Trying to think. Wait, what would I do? Right, it's hard to know. It's a good question. How does one know what to do when there's different opinions? Right. So that's a never-ending topic. How do people choose like what try to do? Right. But I'm trying to think. I'm trying to think what was the question? Yeah. Oh yeah.
2 hours.
I didn't think about it. If I had me, and 2 hours. What was different opinions? Right. You're saying I can't think right now. I never thought about what I would do. But I sometimes you got caught up in the knowledge, you forgot about the Lamaisa. But yeah, right. So then, taking these, you could keep the ideas we learned about the bracha vatala in the rice or whatever it is, and then you could apply it like the triage versus every case you want to bring up. Chametz on Pesach as kares is much more severe. Whatever eating on a fast depends. Some fast days are minhagim. The Gemara says, well, we're not getting oppressed or whatever. So you have to know if someone made a neder not to eat food, that could be the right size. So you have to. Yeah.
Based on this one, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Oh no, I was just saying that comes up in the and then you would apply bracha vatala versus whatever thing you're going up against.
Shimmy, does it matter how big of a bite you take? Meaning, can you just lick it? Does that help anything?
What you're trying to do is pretty much say avoid the problem, which is so it's not going to be avoided. It's a contrary to if you don't eat enough, it's not called eating. If you do eat enough, it's called eating milk. Oh, unless you want to get the shiur, and you're saying it's not called eating milk if you don't have a kazatz, a chatzi share. Interesting. I think it's based on the fact that you're mixing it together. So if you know the reason why you can't milk after meat, it's either stuck in like your throat or in your body, then we'd assume that I think anything would be a problem. But it's a good question.
This is what Shimmy's saying for sure. In the first hour, which is you said yes, in the first hour, if you made the bracha, don't take a bite.
I think that's what I saw. Yeah.
First,
that's you want to iron yourself.
You're clear afterwards. The second afterwards, you're saying it's complicated.
Yeah. So then it sounds like most of the Pisces say you should eat it. I'm telling you, there wasn't. Right. So no, I'm saying right. I guess I would eat it because that's what they say. I guess I just didn't come to it on my own. Right. I guess if you put together, it's pretty much a Darabana versus a Minna.
He's saying that's what Michal's saying is only take the drip. Stam, why should you eat more?
I'm asking maybe.
Oh yeah, you're only allowed to have that one bite unless you want to get into the opinion. There's a controversial opinion. I think they say we like that like once you eat milk and meat, you somehow mixed it, so now you're technically so some people say you could keep eating, and some people say you can't eat for the next 6 hours because I think everything you eat you're going to be mixing milk and meat or something. But
that's a crazy take.
Yeah.
You could just pound milk.
Right, so I think there's
Right, you're dairy.
But I think you already ruined there or something like that because now you're. But I think a lot of people say no because similar. It's like once you break it out, there's still Isser Darabana to do another Maisa Achila.
Good take, right?
Can you have fleishik after?
Right, so I thought I once saw that. Right, so some people say you're supposed to fast. I think because somehow everything you eat, even power of your mixing, so you fast for 6 hours. The rest of the time, or I don't know if you restart. I thought, but maybe they made you could eat power. I'm not sure.
Rabbi, you eat after the second hour, after the first hour. Bite the chocolate.
I think so.
Yeah.
It sounds like that's what everyone's saying. I was just saying I didn't arrive to it on my own, but that's what
I think after the first hour, if you made the bracha already, you take a small bite, like Michal says, don't have a lot, and don't have any more milk.
I still don't understand why it's worse.
No, it does matter. Have a drip, and that's it.
Minhag.
And Rebbe from Rotor, you have to mix the area
And you're back to fleishing. No, then if you want to have fleishing, fleishik. Since you have milk, you have to wash out your mouth.
Wouldn't it be worse
Your
to eat it than say bless Hashem?
After the first hour really goes down to Machlokes Rishonim. If you assume it's Isser Darabanan, then maybe it'd be better not to, because in Shev al Tasad, if you assume the Bracha Tal is a Darabanan, but if you're getting into that's a minhag, then it would.
Right.
So Machlokes Rishonim, what do you do? Yeah.
Then we pass it after an hour already.
Right. So the words we paskin is right. So that's what I'm saying. I'm out of place. You ask her. I don't know. I don't know exactly. Like I would just. This is more popula. Shaltara. Yeah. I'll tell you what that's what
Amazing. One Ernst person whose father raised him beautifully, asked a beautiful shine. Look the ribuy of Torah that he caused from a sincere question. Amazing. Thank you, Shimmy. Thank you to Shui for sure.
Yeah, that's
Amazing. Is that what you would do, Iras? Maskim to this?